have spent time in Western Canada, started my career in industrial construction, and have found myself reconfigured into a digital advertising person, which has been pretty exciting and could probably be a separate presentation that is not as interesting as this one. So I'll let my colleague Nolan give a quick introduction of himself. Nolan.
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Nolan McMahon. I'm the machine learning specialist at LoKnow. I graduated from the University of Calgary in 2019 with an honors bachelor's degree in physics. So I have no formal training in computer science as it is, but I did have a focus, research focus, I should say, in my final year on evaluating the efficacy of quantum computers for the US Army, which is another topic I probably can't discuss, but it is rather interesting. It sort of gave me the insight to sort of realize that machine learning and AI was sort of what I wanted to apply my rather analytical experience to. So I joined LoKnow right out of university, and I've been working here for about 2 years now.
Thanks, Nolan. So a little bit about LoKnow. We were founded in Edmonton in 2016 by a gentleman named Vikram Seth, who is my boss and the CEO of LoKnow. He has since relocated from Edmonton to Calgary and is still a very big part of this company. I have been on the advisory board for LoKnow since the very beginning, working with Vikram, joined as an employee in the role of president June of last year. So it's been 14, 15 months. And my role is to support the growth in the organization. We're up to 59, maybe 60 this afternoon, employees across Canada. Most of us are located either in Edmonton, Calgary, or Vancouver with kind of an even split. And then we've got a couple people in Victoria, a couple people in Saskatoon, one in Winnipeg, one in Toronto. So we're starting to spread out from our roots in Edmonton, very Western Canada focused over the last couple of years, and starting to move into Central Canada. Our vision is for everyone to access, benefit from, and love the vast world of digital advertising. So digital advertising on its own is either sort of not necessarily thought of day to day or thought of in moments of rage as ads jump up in front of your internet experience and getting in your way. So what our vision is for people to benefit from and love digital advertising, which is possible because there's so many different formats and versions of digital advertising that they don't all need to be rage inducing. And digital advertising is one channel for advertisers and brands to get their offers in front of potential customers in a way that's, on time and to the right person and in the right location in a way that they can enjoy. So LoKnow is very focused on quality outcomes for our clients, and generally quality outcomes do not include obnoxious pop-ups in the middle of your browsing experience. So we've got our work cut out for us in terms of our vision, but it helps to make sure that as we're evaluating new technologies and building products and putting advertising into the world, we're thinking about, okay, is this actually useful and productive way to apply an advertiser's resources and dollars to get those business outcomes they're looking for. So a little bit about digital advertising, just to sort of size the market. It's really a rapidly growing global market. So the estimates for 2020 ranged from $333 billion to $378 billion US globally spent on digital advertising. And I think the reason for the range is there's a few different channels that some people count as digital advertising, some people count as broader marketing. So it's a little bit hard to pin this number down exactly, but I think the point is it's so big it doesn't necessarily matter if you've got it exactly right. We'll talk a little bit about where these dollars are spent and on what platforms and in what way here in a minute or two. The interesting thing that I like to point to on this is that this is a rapidly growing market as well. And there's probably some trends that each of you could guess about the move from maybe older forms of advertising, such as linear TV or radio or print newspaper, converting over to digital. But the reality is that digital advertising is even growing faster than the move from older forms of advertising. So there's two trends at play here in the growth. Some of those traditional forms of advertising around print and linear TV, linear radio, they are seeing decreased market share, but the overall dollars spent on advertising in its entirety is also growing, and digital advertising is the beneficiary of a lot of that. So projections are that this market is going to grow at about $60 billion per year for the foreseeable future globally. Growth by region varies somewhat, but based on sort of the world's population and their adoption of digital platforms, there's potentially a long runway of growth on this as emerging markets mature into some of these different platforms and advertising strategies, and as brands look to go global. Okay, a little bit about how these dollars get spent in the world. So about 85% of digital advertising is traded programmatically. And what that means is, it's not necessarily traded through a direct placement of ads onto a publisher's site. It's more often traded through advertising platforms that allow you to bid on inventory on a publisher's page. So you have a newspaper website, they make certain ad slots available as inventory, and they use a platform to match advertisers to that inventory, and you can bid on those spots in an auction. You can negotiate long-term upfront pricing and then access that inventory as you see fit. But much of this is done digitally through large-scale platforms that are constantly matching available inventory. So if someone's opened up a web page that has an ad slot, and advertisers who have prepared a display ad or an audio ad or a video ad and are looking to place it into the world in front of the right audience. So that is a constantly active marketplace that is happening all around us as we access the internet. At a local scale, just for a little bit of context, we operate primarily in Canada. We do advertise into the US and Europe, but today we're focused nationally on Canada. So at a local scale, we're looking at about $1.2 million in digital ads bought every hour in Canada in 2021. So when you think about the cost of a digital ad being measured in dollars per thousand ad impressions, which is the way it's thought of, you're talking about $3 to $15 per thousand ad impressions. So in order to spend $1.2 million per hour, you're really talking about millions of ad impressions getting placed and bought every hour just in Canada. And I guess when I think about it, I think about Canada being about 3% of the global share of digital advertising, with the US being somewhere just under 50% of the global. And I think that's what we talk about when we talk about the potential long-term growth, is that today the US, with far less than 45% of the world's population, is seeing 45% of the ad spend in their market. Okay, when we're talking about programmatic digital ads, and I'm going to go through this because I think it helps when we talk a little bit more about our specific technology, and Nolan will get to it. What are we talking about? So some examples, starting with some obvious ones. An ad in Facebook is flagged as sponsored, and this is a brand that has prepared an offer, linked it to a landing page, provided some copy with it, and bought it at auction on the Facebook platform, and have selected a number of targeting variables for what audience they think would be interested in this case, men's clothing. Another example is the ad version of your Google search results. So in the past, the distant past now, Google, when you put in a search query, would return, the best matches in their organic search database. As they've monetized, those top result spots have turned to the best matches within a bidding system of paid ads, and they're marked with ad out in front, and Google kind of moves the slider back and forth on how obvious it is that it's an ad. They like to make them look a lot like their normal results. When they go too far, they start getting complaints, and then they'll pull the slider back and it'll be more obvious that it's an ad. But an advertiser and our client can produce a list of search terms that they're interested in, provide ad copy and links for when that comes up. And when someone searches for digital advertising in this example, Bell Media was the highest paying bidder or thereabouts for that term in the region that I was searching in. And I was served an ad for Bell Media, followed by Apps Flyer. If I go down a couple more, it starts to get into, we'll call it organic search results. So that's another spot where digital ads show up. YouTube, same concept, but it's that pre-roll video, midstream video, end of video ad that you see, also bought programmatically. And then off into some other platforms. So Twitter has paid advertising. When you're in your browser, you see the banner ads, top or bottom, are scattered about, and there's a wide variety of formats there. An app on your mobile, like a Yahoo Finance, they're often very heavily monetized with ads, and this is where the experience starts to creep in a little bit in terms of positive and negative feelings. LinkedIn, it might not be flagged an ad, but it'll be flagged promoted, which is the same thing. Google Maps, when you search for pizza in my neighborhood, it returns a Nietzsche's pizza ad as the top result. So Nietzsche's has been on that pizza term, not just in the regular Google search platform, but in the Maps world, in Apple News or a service like that. There's ad placements. Amazon. Amazon is one of the biggest players in this. They, in the last 5 years, have really stepped into advertising in a big way. So this example is on the Amazon site, but Amazon also is doing a lot of work in the background, and a lot of the ads you see in the broader internet have maybe been delivered through the Amazon platform, where a publisher is making their spots available to Amazon, and then Amazon is doing that matchmaking. They know a lot about buyer intent, and are making a lot of waves in this industry. TikTok has recently monetized their platform with a video ad format that's accessible. And, you know, sort of at the more obscure end of it, in your free Gmail app, if you go to the promotion side, it's highly likely that you're served an ad at the top of your email inbox on a free service like this. So these are examples of the types of ads that that we place in the various platforms. There's probably dozens more, but this is probably enough to give the idea of what we're talking about. So our business is largely optimization of programmatic buying, and it can result in enormous savings for advertisers if done properly. So for us, optimization is about tools to make that buying more efficient and data to help inform decisions around bidding strategies, what creative is most effective, what audiences are responding to the advertising. And this is where some of our work is focused on AI and machine learning to help support this optimization. So we talked about tools and data. So when we talk about tools, a lot of it is around automation opportunities. And I'll let Nolan talk about our product Retriever. What it is a dynamic ad building tool. So an advertiser will have a product. They probably don't want to advertise it just in one location. So all of those different formats above, you need the ad format, the copy, and the placements to all be prepared in all the different sizes and formats in order to go into market. So we see, and we're not the only ones, but we're working on automation tools to build out those ads. Nolan.
Yeah, so as Tyler sort of alluded to, Retriever is like an optimization tool to sort of attach to that programmatic side. And the way that it sort of works is it answers three kind of important questions. The first thing it does is it will grab from one of our clients, it will grab their inventory. So if they sell something, it could be anything. It could be, I don't know, a store that sells tennis equipment, let's say. We have a web scraper that will go out and it will pull all of their inventory and organize it nicely for us so we can sort of see, okay, well, here are all of the tennis balls, here are all the tennis rackets, here are all the tennis nets, tennis clothing, right? All that sort of stuff. But then we have a very important problem to try to solve. Now that we have all this information that we've gathered from a particular client, we have all of these different interfaces that we need to send ads to, like Google search and Yahoo Finance or all the ones that Tyler just showed. And building all of that out manually is a tremendously large amount of work. And so optimizing that, automating that, amounts to answering these three questions. It's we first need to pick, okay, now that we have this inventory, we need to advertise it to the right person. That involves reducing that rage-inducing factor that Tyler talked about. Ideally, we want to advertise to people who are relevant or who are interested in tennis, that would be a relevant ad for them. Maybe they play tennis, maybe they're interested in tennis, maybe they watch tennis, something like this. So we need to figure out who we should advertise to and who we shouldn't. Then we need to decide, now that we have this inventory of whatever our client sells, we should decide, okay, what should we present to them in the ad? Now, ideally, again, to make ads as relevant as possible, we would want whatever it is that we show them to be something that they would be potentially interested in purchasing or learning more about, or clicking through to see the website that's behind the ad, that sort of thing. And you might think that even a very specialty shop that sells tennis equipment, let's say, would, any product would be equally relevant, but people have very narrow interests, especially when they're browsing, right? They have, well, I need tennis balls. I don't really care about tennis clothing. I have clothing already. And so being able to narrow that down and figure out what product we need to show what person is a key issue. And then the final issue, and these are all very big problems, but the final one is, how should we frame the product? How do we reach them? Should we be using a template that has like a video background? Should it have a transition that slides up from the bottom? Should it be red or blue or yellow? What platform should we show it on? All these kinds of questions that relate to how we actually get the ad in front of the person. Those are all issues that normally people have to sort of work out manually. And it's a very low resolution solution if you have to do it all manually, because there's no optimization going on whatsoever. So in relation to these three problems, we'll talk about the what product should we show them problem. If you could just go to the next slide, Tyler. So the temptation, man, everyone is susceptible to it, but one of the maxims of computer science is to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate something that should be really simple. And so there's lots of temptation to build some sort of complicated model that will pick exactly what product it is that we should show on this ad at this time, and we'll feed in all these data sources, and we'll do all of this really complicated computation. We'll get our perfect answer. But when it comes to actually serving things in industry, if we can just make an iterative improvement, right? We start with something bad, but then we gradually refine it and improve it until it gets to be something reasonably good. That's the right strategy, as opposed to sort of charging forward with a really complicated solution that may or may not work, frankly, because it's so complex. And so that's what we ended up doing here. So we have this very interesting graph. So related to the products of this hypothetical tennis retailer, we have a couple of different metrics that we can use when we're evaluating the products. So let's say we've taken on this tennis client and we've served some ads for them. We've scraped their inventory, we got all the products, we've posted their ads in a number of different places, and we've sort of gauged how the public has responded to those ads. So we have two kind of metrics to do that. The first one is impressions. Is whenever you see an ad. If an ad pops up on your screen on whatever platform, if you see it loads on your monitor, that's an impression. And then we have clicks. Clicks should be hopefully more obvious. A click happens when you not only see the ad, but then you make the conscious decision to select it, to click on it, to follow the link through to the website or to the product page, or to make a purchase or to sign up for a newsletter or whatever. So we have these two metrics to sort of tie to each product. So we keep a record, right? As we show each product, we keep track of how often did we show it to people, and how often did it actually get a click as a result of it being shown. And so we can sort of store that information. And when we first sort of are testing out a new client, we'll just kind of push all the ads randomly. We'll randomly show this product, and we'll randomly show that product, something like that. But as we show more and more ads, and we collect more of this impression and click data, we're able to to select which ad we show to the next new person in a slightly more intelligent way. So the way this works, and this is related to the graph that you see in front of you here, we assign a score to each item. So every time period, whatever it is, maybe it's every hour, or every day, or something like that, we take the whole list of all the products that the advertiser has, and we will assign them a score based on how many impressions they've received so far and how many clicks they've received so far. And we bias it really heavily toward clicks, because that's what we want. Ideally, if you're selling something, you want to actually get people to click through and buy. So we make sure not to punish anything that's new on the scene. If they added a new product and it hasn't been shown very often, and we haven't had a chance to see if it's actually popular with the public, we make sure that it has a score that isn't too low. But we really, really push products that are relevant, that generate tons and tons of clicks. So you can see here, this is just a plane. Now, obviously, a portion of the plane, half the plane that you see here is unreachable. You can't have more clicks than impressions. You can have, at most, as many clicks as impressions. But you can see that your score that you sort of assign, which is on the z-axis here, that score is proportional to both the number of impressions and the number of clicks. And you just sort of do a batch transform, if you will. You assign them all a score all at once by the formula that you see in the top center there. And then we just rescale the score. So we make the score sum to 1, so you can make it a probability. And you throw that into your randomly choosing a product function, and it will take those probabilities into account when it shows something. So it's more likely next time you see an ad for this given advertiser that it will be an ad or an item that did really well, that was really attractive. And as a result, hopefully more relevant to the person who's now seeing the ad.
We had an interesting question, Nolan, where Marjan's asking if you considered reach instead of impressions.
We have not considered reach. This was the simplest possible solution. So we were looking to what's the information that we've already gathered about the products in the inventory. And reach wouldn't be very hard to use, but we've just sort of went with, well, impressions and clicks are handy. Let's not make this too complicated. We'll just keep it as simple as possible. And so, no, the answer is not yet. But we're certainly open to, again, iterating on this solution and making it more and more sophisticated.
And excuse me, where did you get the 99 and the 9?
I made them up. It was all arbitrary. It was, well, I think that clicks should be about 10 times, roughly, or 11 times as important. Okay, we'll just scale it, pick some numbers out of thin air, pop them in there, and then you watch how they do. And from using this Punisher scoring function, we've seen that we've gotten significantly more clicks overall than when we would just randomly distribute it. So all the numbers, the 10, the 99, and the 9, all arbitrary, all selected at random.
And I think both of these last two questions, I think there's an important theme here in that we have a lot more opportunity. And I think it's one of the reasons we're interested in presenting today is just to demonstrate how much opportunity there is in this industry. We have certainly barely scratched the surface of this opportunity. And I think that's what makes this potentially a more interesting presentation than we have solved this, don't bother thinking about it.
Oh, exactly. And another reason why we invited you is we see you're actively hiring. And I saw the latest one, senior software developer in Edmonton. And I'm not sure when's the right time to talk about the kind of skills you're looking for or new openings you have on your team now or in the future.
Yeah, we are pretty much in continuous recruitment for a few different categories of positions. The company sort of divided into quarters. About a quarter of our people are in sales and client support, where they're directly interacting and serving our clients. There's about a quarter of them that we call them audience and optimization, but what they're doing is the in-platform ad buying, the manual bits of this and the application of the tools on behalf of the clients. So a little more behind the scenes technical. Another quarter is in software development and the type of work that Nolan is doing to build tools. So we've got some front-end people, some database people, some specialists like Nolan that are advising on, what should we be trying to add into features for our tools. And then about a quarter of the team is in back-end support, HR, finance, all of the less glamorous stuff that it takes to run a business.
Run a business.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So in all of those areas, we've been hiring here over the summer. We expect that to continue. And our development team, we expect to see grow again in the coming 12 months. There was a question in the chat about some of our clients. So not all of them are super interested in having their name connected with a specific vendor. I can put them in some categories. So we've got a global sporting goods manufacturer that does direct to consumer stuff. So might not be the most recognizable name today, but on the golf side, they're doing some really interesting stuff. We've got 2 out of the 3 largest municipalities in Western Canada who have large advertising needs in terms of getting messages to the public. So a little different than selling something. It's about getting messages there. We've got, I guess, a mid-tier financial institution with a national footprint. We've got one of the largest grocer and fuel chains in Western Canada. And we really work across a wide variety of industries. Some of our competitors, they like to specialize in a specific industry. We like to see all the different industries and apply the different approaches. We also have a number of real estate clients. So selling new condo developments, leasing apartments, all really successful use cases for some of this technology.
Very cool. So we have business questions and technical questions. So Nolan, didn't mean to interrupt, but there is that question about, did you consider adding time spent on ad after click as an evaluative factor to be a contributor to the score? So it becomes S brackets IC time.
That's a great question. That's a great potential additional piece of data that we could tie to this scoring function. And the only thing that I would sort of caution on, one of the reasons why we haven't moved forward with that from the very start, is it comes down to some of the privacy issues that I think Tyler will talk about later here. But if we're tracking how long you spent on an ad, we need to make sure that we're tracking how long a person spent on the ad or on the landing page for the ad, as opposed to how long you specifically spent on that page. And there's other complications too, because it sort of depends upon what kind of ad that we're showing. So as Tyler just mentioned, we have a number of different clients in a number of different industries. And so some of them will want to land you right on the product page where you can make that purchase, you can see the product description, you can hit buy now or whatever. And that might be relevant. The amount of time you spend on there might be relevant. But others they'll redirect you to a form so that you can sign up for a newsletter, or they'll redirect you to the home page. And so you're more likely to sort of navigate around the site and not land and stay on that home page for a great deal of time. So you may have a very relevant ad, something that does attract a lot of traffic, but doesn't actually lead to the user spending a great deal of time on the landing page. So you'd have to be careful. You'd have to tease out how to actually implement time and keep those considerations in mind.
Quick question before I move on to the next one about how to get a hold of Nolan and myself. I'm tyler.hanson@LoKnow.com. Nolan, I believe, actually, I don't know your email address for sure, Nolan. So.
It's nolan.mcmahon@LoKnow.com, which I will put in the chat if you want to get a hold of me for a one-on-one afterward.
Okay.
Feel free to reach out.
I think we could get into more detail here for sure. We've got two other areas that we've got some focus that I would like to touch on. So I'm going to move ahead if that's okay with everybody. The next tool that we're working on and that we've got in market with a group of our clients, we call Rover. And it's specifically directed towards the search advertising market, which is dominated by Google, but Bing shows up and some other search engines do show up there. But really, when you're thinking about search advertising today, you're thinking about Google. So our clients, they want to have lists of words that and search terms that they're bidding on that are relevant to their product, that are specific and that are cost effective for them when they win the bid and have to pay for that ad to show up, that they're getting good outcomes. So that has been, development of those lists has historically been a very manual exercise where an individual is going through, combing a website, combing the sales material, and building, a list of, 50, 100, 200 words. A big advertiser with a lot of products would over time build out thousands of words, but it would be a big exercise to do. And we're working on automating that process, being able to do potentially more words faster, be able to evaluate how they're performing, cycle through them. Nolan, I'll let you talk about it a little more.
Sure, yeah. So picking those words, again, the manual process is exceedingly tedious. And making a list of 1,000 words is a true accomplishment if you're doing it by hand. But with the machine, again, we're trying to keep it simple. So we have a scraper that will go through and will scrape the pages from a site and then look at all the words that appear on the site. You do like a TF-IDF sort of analysis on it. And then you throw it through some NLP to figure out, the different parts of speech. And you can make a theory about what a good search term would be. When you go to the browser, someone will either search, let's say, a noun, or they'll search an adjective followed by a noun, or they'll search adjective, noun, something like that. You have this list of words that you found based on how often they appeared on the site. You have the classifications of what type of word they are, and then you just mix and match. You splice them all together. And when you do that, and with the number of rules that we've implemented, when you do that, you get two distinct kinds of keywords that pop out. So for our hypothetical tennis shop, Tennis in Venice, they have a number of different tennis balls, I guess, for sale. If we applied Rover to their site, we scraped it, looked at all the words that appeared, and spliced those words together, we would end up with two categories: short tail keywords and long tail keywords. So the short tail ones, those are the ones that are more likely to appear on a human-made list because they're simpler, they're shorter, and as a consequence, they're more expensive to bid on because more people are bidding on them. But more people are also searching them. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. But some examples, right? You might get tennis balls or tennis in Venice or Venetian tennis balls because it's tennis in Venice, or just the word tennis, right? But then you also find that depending on the complexity of the rules that you develop for splicing these keywords together, you'll get some really interesting long tail keywords. These are searched far less often. They don't appear in manual lists. They're much less expensive to bid on. And critically, this is the critical point here. When they do get searched, it's not very often, but when they do get searched, the person who is searching them has intent. Like they remembered one particular phrase from the site. They don't remember what the site's called or whatever, but they just searched something very specific that they saw on the site. We're bidding on that. We can show them an ad relevant for whatever it is that they were thinking of in their head, and then they're much more likely to make that purchase or sign up for that newsletter or learn more or whatever. So some examples of some long tail keywords: bounciest tennis balls or racquetball sports balls, or buy greatest Wimbledon tennis 2021, or fluorescent green ball, right? These are the words that if you had to sit down and make them yourself, you probably wouldn't come up with. But we find that when they are successful, they are radically successful. They lead to huge monetary gain revenue for our clients. So turn it back over to Tyler.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting for a lot of our clients, and we're seeing, I think we're seeing more interest on this product than any other. And I think specifically because the manual way is so tedious and so painful. So we're excited about this one. Those are the two primary products that our software team is working on right now on the tools side. The other part of optimization is data. So just a couple minutes to spend here on the data opportunity that exists in this space. Data in this space is, like in many cases, fraught with peril around privacy and appropriate use. LoKnow is laser focused on staying at the front end of privacy developments and compliance. We don't think that we need to be pressing the boundaries on personal privacy in order to get results for our clients. And we can apply these tools, we can use data in a way that's respectful of our clients' needs. And we feel that we've got a role to play in the ecosystem around making useful tools that are compliant and respectful, and pushing the limit of modern thinking on privacy. And the reality is that sometimes the easy way is to just blow through privacy, come up with an audience of one person that you've got some data insight that says they're going to be interested in tennis balls, and serve them an ad. That is the easy way. We don't want to take that path. We don't think it's sustainable. We don't think it's viable. We don't feel that, well, in a lot of jurisdictions, it would not be compliant. Jurisdictions where it is still compliant are headed away from that. So what we want to be doing is using, the wide variety of techniques that are available to ensure privacy and compliance. The easiest one for us is that the scale of this industry is so large that you can build large cohorts, large audiences that still maintain the characteristics of an audience, but that you cannot identify an individual. And then once you're into anonymity in that crowd, then the next thing is, are you building audiences that are respectful of people's rights, and that aren't pointing out a difference with an audience that is involves a protected group or an equity deserving group, or various characteristics that would be not looked upon favorably by the individuals in that audience. So I think one thing to know is we're very careful to not take in any PII. So all of the work that we do around data, we are making sure we're not taking names and addresses as we work through it. So starting with that, It's relatively straightforward. When you don't know any PII, you don't feel like you're losing anything when you start grouping people up into bigger audience groups. And the reality is our clients don't want to spend 30 cents advertising to 9 people. They've got budgets that are thousands of dollars a month, and they want to reach big groups. So the scale in these audiences is working in our favor around some of the privacy stuff. So there's a whole nother presentation on privacy, but I just wanted to touch on that quickly. So a little bit of scale around data. So our 350 billion per year in spend gets allocated at about $3 per 1,000 ad impressions average. The impressions that LoKnow buys are more expensive than that. There's a lot of low quality stuff that brings that average down. So, when we're thinking about it, we're thinking about $6, $8, $10, $12, $15 per 1,000. But the global average, because there is a lot of junk out there, is about $3 per 1,000 impressions. So we're talking about 116 trillion impressions. This is just my fairly rough estimating, and it's just sort of the amount of data out there. Each one of those impressions returns attributes depending on what platform it's served on. You get slightly different things, but as a minimum, you find out what ad you're actually talking about in terms of what video or image or text was provided, some time stamping. You may get the device type that it was viewed on so that you can sort of assess mobile versus desktop versus whatnot. Apple versus Android is a big topic. So often you'll get the operating system that comes back on. You get the target URL that the ad was pointed to when you clicked on it, and you get an indication of whether it was clicked or not. So, with each of these 116 trillion items, you're getting a bunch of attributes potentially back. When you add in the website analytics side of what they do, like for us, we're very focused on the time spent with the ad, not the time in terms of measuring the time, but the impression of the ad, the result of the click, and getting them to the right landing page. At that point, there's a whole other industry that largely takes over around website analytics, which is once they got to the landing page, what did they do after that? We're very much up to the point of the landing page. And we work with clients to kind of blend the two together, but we're not focused on web analytics in that way. What we do like is when a client is selling something, we're connecting to that purchase outcome and reporting return on ad spend in terms of revenue. But that website journey is not really our focus. There's a bunch more there. So click-through rates of maybe 0.5%. Across that is maybe 580 billion clicks. And then, those clicks are resulting in those website analytic records in the hundreds. So maybe another $60 trillion trillion data items in web traffic. So, overall, probably over 1.5, 10 to the 15 pieces of ad-related data generated this year out in the world. So no shortage of data available to do some of this work on, no shortage of dollars spent in the industry. And that's a lot of what makes this market pretty appealing to LoKnow.
So Tyler, just a quick time check.
Yeah.
Many people will be needing to leave in a couple of minutes or so. Yeah. I know that Osmar will be able to wrap up too, in that I myself have to step out, but this has been so interesting, and again, so exciting that this is happening in Alberta. So thank you so much today, Tyler.
Thanks, Gal. I will go quickly through this one and the next one, and I think we're just about to it. So of the top 20 social media platforms, it results in about 10,000 additional partners for data integration. So we're not the only one working in this space. I saw a graphic this week of someone who had taken all those partnerships and mapped them to all of the platforms. this network is available to download on this site, and I'm sure there's a lot that could be done just with this one. I haven't even tapped this one, but it was a visualization of the data ecosystem in the industry. For us, we have not liked the supply chain around data in Canada. We've worked with a bunch of the vendors and have not really liked it. So we've undertaken to get a little more hands-on with this data and build out an audience graph for Canadian marketers that we're calling Rain Barrel. And we can talk a little bit more about that, Nolan, if we've got a minute, and I appreciate getting near the end of time.
Yeah, so as Tyler is sort of alluding to, there's a lot of privacy-related concerns when it comes to taking a look at people's personal information. And a lot of the ways that we mitigate that is grouping them together. If we group them together, it's less privacy invasive, right? And so one of the key ways from a machine learning perspective to do that is, given that there's on the order of 10 to the 15 pieces of information that aren't labeled, you're looking at unsupervised work in clustering in particular. And especially if Rain Barrel is going to be a product which will be open to Canadian marketers, it needs to be a product which doesn't require a machine learning expert to use, which is a challenge that is actually very profound, right? Like, if we want to group people together in a way that both makes sense and works, it may not be perfect, but if it works better than nothing, and it works for someone who is a layman, how do we actually accomplish that? And the way that we sort of approached it, this algorithmic segmentation via clustering, is we use a bunch of statistics, things like, once we've clustered a piece of information, things like silhouette scores or Kolinsky indices or Davies-Bouldin indices, we use those sort of statistics, which don't require labels, to assess how well we've clustered given whatever clustering algorithm we're using. And then we can sort of try to optimize those scores, those indices don't have labels. And then once you've done that, like, you're going to get probably a bunch of meh clustering results that you'd like to sort of improve. And the way that we're sort of taking that challenge on is with consensus clustering. So you can see there's a reference there to a very nice paper from Cornell University, which discusses some of the techniques that you can use to sort of combine clustering opinions together and hopefully get a bit better of an outcome. Again, we're not looking for perfection here. Perfection requires an expert, at least, right? But if you get pretty good is much better than what we have in the industry right now, which is the audience data, like Tyler says, it wasn't really that great when we looked into it. So again, we're just making iterative progress here, as opposed to solving the problem flat out. So I will turn it back over to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Nolan. So this is the wrap up. I think hopefully you've seen something in this industry that you think is interesting or appealing. I know Nolan and I are enjoying our time on this a lot. We're always open to thoughts and ideas. So if something in this has tweaked you, we're very open to a conversation or a discussion, and we're happy to expand our network. And we're really pleased to have this opportunity to talk about something that we enjoy. We're out of time for questions probably. We're available at 2 p.m. this afternoon. If you want to reach out to Nolan, you can arrange a discussion. I'm available too, but we'll go through Nolan sort of for booking purposes this afternoon. And then in the days and weeks to come, we're around. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and appreciate being here.
So thank you, Tyler and Nolan. Thank you very much. I don't know, we got an email. We received an email saying that you are available from 1 till 2. Was it now 2 o'clock instead?
Yeah, we had a little mix up Sorry about that. So I'm available. Nolan is not. So I guess you can reach out to me from 1 to 2. I think you'll find the limit of my technical knowledge on this very quickly in a discussion. So if it's related to the business or what we're thinking strategically, I'm available now or at 2. Nolan needs to step out. He's delivering a demo to our staff on some new functionality here at
Okay.
1 that I missed.
So if people want to ask questions, want to stay longer than the 1 o'clock deadline,
I can stay on. Yep.
Okay, you can stay on. Thank you very much. So if somebody has a technical question to ask to Nolan, now's the time.
Or 2. Yeah.
Or 2, yeah.
So 2 o'clock, how will people communicate with Nolan?
So feel free to send me an email. I'll post it again. We can arrange to meet in Google Meet or something like this.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I'm copy pasting Nolan's email again in the chat box. Oh, Nolan did that. So everyone, Nolan's email is in the chat box, and if you want to reconnect with Tyler and Nolan at 2 p.m. today, feel free to email them directly and they will find a way to reach out to you.
Well, I don't know if others have questions. I have questions. And Tyler, I'm sure you can answer them. No problem.
We'll see. Yeah.
So thank you, Nolan. If you have to leave, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the whole audience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure.
So
yes, I will hop off.
Okay. I have a loaded question, a controversial question, and later a technical question, but it's not a big deal.
Okay.
In terms of being able to answer. The loaded question has to do with me not really understanding the why and the where. So first of all, this digital advertising world is huge. And you talked about the market, $300-something billion. People can't even place it exactly 350 or 380 or whatever. It's huge. But there are big players in there. And the fact that LoKnow was created recently in 2016 in this big ocean with big fish, I'm kind of surprised. So I'm still cannot place you. Are you among in the world of SSPs, in the world of DSPs, or in the world of...
That's a great question. I can't answer this one. Yes.
Yeah. Are you trying to help your clients to bid because there's a bidding process to get a placement? Are you coming up with new strategies to help them bid? Or so this is the where, and the why is, as I said, there are these big fish, and you decided to swim in this ocean with this big fish. Is it because you identified a niche that nobody's dealing with, or because you think you have a technology that can do better than what these big fish are doing?
Right. So, excellent question. Thank you. We are agnostic to all of the different platforms. So what we've identified is that this is a complicated and emerging market. Each individual platform, such as Google or Facebook or TikTok, they're very focused on maximizing for them, and they're putting forward the cases to advertisers for why you should be on their platform. And each of them are valid in their own ways. What we've learned is that we'll call it mid-sized advertisers need to make a huge investment in order to take advantage of the vast world of this digital advertising. So the breakover point that we've seen is, and there's not a lot of science behind this, but it's sort of, based on who our clients are and who our clients aren't. If you're spending less than $10 million a year on digital advertising, it's really hard to make the case to build out the team internally to access, learn, and efficiently use all of the platforms that could improve your business. So what ends up happening if you take it in-house and you're too small is you get, a team of 2 or 3 people, and they, if they're excellent, can maybe cover 40 or 50% of the platforms, and they can get good and they can deliver results. With LoKnow, we're 60 people. We have that scale of a team that can understand all of the changes in the marketplace, can stay on top of the trends. These platforms are changing their rules and changing their interfaces daily in an attempt to out-optimize their competitors. The niche that we're providing for our clients, we're working only on the buy side, not on the sell side of this, like a publisher. And we are offering that scale and expertise to those advertisers that are under $10 million a year, where it's more effective for them to pay a fee to LoKnow to handle it on their behalf than to build out that team and take on the technical risk in-house.
So the bidding process is important for you? The
bidding is very important for us. So as we, that is on our roadmap, is to really get serious about a bidding layer. Right now, a lot of the technology in bidding in LoKnow is like the agriculture version of technology, where it's not software, it's technology, but it exists in manuals and procedures and then gets translated by experienced people. We think that there's an opportunity to turn, that technology that we've built and developed into some automated solutions going forward, and that'll be a big focus for us in the coming years. Is to work across all of these platforms and come up with not just bidding strategies optimized for a single platform, but optimized across all of the platforms for the benefit of our clients.
The controversial kind of question is the following. So advertising is about matching interesting messages to the most interested people. Some people believe that using AI to do that is unethical. So that's an unethical use of AI. What is your reaction to that?
I think that concern could be very real. And I think that as we continue in this space, it's something that we're going to be talking about and thinking about a lot. Today, our focus is very much on the privacy element of it, and in terms of using AI to make the nuts and bolts in the background turn a little smoother or a little faster. We feel like we're probably not pressing up against any ethical boundaries there. As it intersects with privacy and as the tools grow and mature, so that that back-end machinery of just doing things quicker and more efficiently starts to interact with the data that we have about the consumers, I think that's when we start pressing up against it. So LoKnow is not there today. I think it's on our minds and we're cognizant of it. The solutions that we're coming up with today are fairly rudimentary, and I think you can sort of see that in the presentation. And I think our bigger risk today is around staying compliant and staying on side with the developing mindset around privacy and what digital privacy means.
There's the privacy aspect, data privacy aspect, but there's also the other aspect, which is the manipulation or influence on the behavior of a consumer, because you're taking this apparently interesting message and you you link it to an interested user, but the interested, they may not be interested, but you make them interested.
Right.
Did you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's where people think that if you really use AI to do that, that's an unethical use of AI.
Right. Yeah, I think it's super interesting to think about that. I think that LoKnow is in the middle of this ecosystem of companies. I think that what we're hoping is that our clients will show some leadership there. We know that these social networks are pressing on this limit a lot harder than we are today, and we're certainly watching that. Like the recommendation engines in something like a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok are pushing the boundaries of that conversation a lot harder than LoKnow is today, where we're trying to automate some of that existing workflow. But for sure, there could very well come a day where what we're working on is deemed to be, damaging to society. And we, as a company, I think our values will have us stopped and redirected towards a compliant version of this, because we're not chasing. The reason I can say that is we're not chasing the most effective version of this thing. We're really trying to make sure that this benefits all of the parties involved, and that includes the consumer for us. So in our vision, it includes making sure that everyone can access, benefit from, and love this. And that is not just our clients, that is the broader world. So I believe that there's benefit that comes from, useful and relevant advertising. There is a limit to that, and there's certainly a limit to that within LoKnow. Great question.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. Are there other questions from the audience that is still sticking with us? And thank you for being with us. Otherwise, I have another question. Okay. There are many problems with online advertisements. For example, I'll tell you one funny story. This is a package that was sent from China to the US, and the media was covering this big problem that happened. These are body parts that were sent from China to a lab in the US. It's legitimate. However, the package was delivered to the wrong address. It was delivered to a house, and the article's talking about this woman opening her package that she didn't know who was sending it, and she found these body parts inside. The ad that appeared on that page, and I have screenshots of many of these actually, but this particular one is funny because the ad that was on that page that bid and succeeded in getting their ad on that page, they were looking at words like package, delivery, things like that. So you can imagine these are big delivery companies that managed to get an ad there, and that hurts the brand. That's wrong. Another example, very quickly, this article is talking about employees at Amazon in the warehouse not being able to go to the bathroom, so they pee in a bottle because they don't have a break and things like that. And the ad in that page was Amazon is hiring. It doesn't make sense. I mean, this is definitely not the right place to put an ad like that. So this is not just hurting the company. Well, the article is already talking about the company, but nobody is going to click on that ad saying, oh yeah, I want to be peeing in a bottle. I mean, it makes no sense. So in the bidding process, there's something missing. There's information missing provided to the bidders, which is those words that I'm bidding for, because I'm bidding because of the package or delivery or because they named my company Amazon, is the use of that word in the text, positive or negative. If they say something bad about it, I'd better not vote for it, and I better not bid for it.
So this is very real for us.
Yes, that's why I'm mentioning it.
So what we go straight to with most of our clients is an allow list and a disallow list. And a lot of our clients, they just don't want anything to do with news. And the news, so the easy button is to just draw the line at that emerging content and those emerging spots where you need a ton of context around what is there. Now, we're able to do that because we can disallow all of those categories and still get results for our clients. So a lot of times, but that's not sustainable. And the reason we can get away with it—
it's not sustainable. Two, you miss opportunities.
Absolutely. So the reason it is viable today is going away because they're still targeting around, cookies, for example, where, you're less bidding on the site and you're more worried about, what audience that viewer fits in based on, browsing history and some of those other groupings. That's going away because that's also not viable and sustainable long-term from a privacy standpoint. So the current trend is to move over to this contextual audience building, which is really about digesting that site and trying to infer your audience from the site that they're on, which is, like, realistically, it's not going to go well. And I think there's going to be big parts of this ecosystem that are really going to struggle with this.
I have many examples where I have many examples where this can hurt very badly the advertiser. So we did some work on this. I have a paper on intelligent ad bidding using sentiment analysis.
Oh, is that right? That's excellent. Yeah.
And the challenge was to be able to do that in a few milliseconds because the bidding is happening in milliseconds. So the time is extremely important. So if you're interested, let me know and I'll point you to those papers.
Yeah, very interested. That's excellent because that move from reliance on cookie and tracking to reliance on context of the site is going to be painful. So our clients are relying on us to keep them out of the worst versions of that through the chaos that is upon us. So,
well, drop me a line and I'll point you to the right direction.
Yeah, that would be excellent. Thank you. Okay, now I want easier questions. Who's got easier questions? Okay, I'll take harder questions too, but I would prefer easier.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. I kind of could relate the works that you do at LoKnow with the previous works that I was doing more on the technical side. And actually, I'm just more interested in knowing the opportunities with LoKnow and kind of, that the perspective that you have to improve the expertise in advertising. So I just wanted to know if you would have some time to chat with you and maybe with Nolan, maybe next week or the earliest time that you might have.
That would be excellent. Yes, we are on the lookout for interested talent. So that would be great. So right now, we probably don't have that many posted opportunities between now and Christmas. And the reason is that Q4 is a very busy advertising time of year. So we've done a fair amount of our hiring. Right now we're in budgeting and planning for 2022, and it includes continued hiring in all of our areas, including some support for Nolan and some building out of that team. And Nolan will be the first to admit that he is not necessarily an expert. He's engaged and he's interested and he works really well with our software team. I think that, over time that team is gonna keep building. So we post all of our opportunities on our website and they show up in Indeed. And when we make an opportunity available, we make it available in all of the cities that we're active in. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'd be happy to make time and talk to you about it in the coming days.
Oh, okay, yeah. So maybe I'll send you and maybe Nolan an email.
That would be great.
Yeah, get in touch and to see to find the suitable time for all of us.
Yeah, very good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Tyler. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us till the end. But Tyler and Nolan are available after 2 as well for other questions, hard or easy, technical or non-technical. Thank you, Tyler, for this presentation. This is actually quite interesting. I'm surprised. I didn't know that there was a company in this space in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
Yeah, we keep a fairly low public relations profile. We're privately held and we've been profitable, so we haven't really been seeking investors. And I think a lot of that noise gets made in the drumming up of investment opportunities. So we don't make a ton of noise in that way. But
how do your clients find you? Do you have salesperson knocking at their doors, or do you have people coming cold calls like this?
We work almost entirely off of referrals. So we've got a sales manager in each of those cities that were listed, that, you know, they're doing the regular sales and marketing stuff. But the reality is that we are growing off of referrals for the most part. We work with agencies as well. So a full service advertising agency today faces that same challenge, where if they're going to have a digital media team in-house, having 2 people in a digital media team today is not really going to be able to deliver the full results. So a creative agency that is coming up with advertising and marketing concepts for their clients, we work with probably 20 or 25 different agencies where they're doing the media planning, the strategy, the beautiful art, the copywriting. We're doing the media buying on the digital side on their behalf. So their sales teams are also leveraged for those customer relationships for us. So.
And you mainly work for clients that are interested in the digital world, not TV and radio, or you also deal with TV and radios as well?
We do not do radio. We do the connected TV. So the digital programmatic, like the new streaming stuff, what we would call linear TV. We're not doing any traditional media buying. So we're not doing billboards, radio, print, television. There's groups that are much better equipped than us. And we work with a couple of the bigger, broader media buying groups in Western Canada, where we've taken over their digital, and their legacy groups are still handling the traditional stuff. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I see even Niraj is leaving. I have to leave as well. But thank you for your presentation. I very much appreciate it. I know that others appreciate it as well, but they had to leave.
Oh no, it's all good. I know this world of in and out of Zoom meetings, so I appreciate people being here, and hopefully if even one person enjoyed it, it's worth my time. So.
I'll send you an email, or you can send me an email, ping me for that thing about sentiment analysis.
I'm going to. That's interesting. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you, Tyler, for the presentation, and thank you, Osmar, for an interesting discussion. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.